Hey, what's up guys? I'm here in my new apartment in Thailand and I haven't quite figured out yet where I'm going to be doing videos in this apartment here. So today I'm doing it in my tiny kitchen. In fact, you can probably hear my refrigerator making strange noises that only just started right as I was about to make my video, so that's inconvenient. But I wanted to do another Storytime Saturday today. If you haven't been following my channel for a while, I like to do Storytime Saturdays where I just talk about some stories or some experiences that have happened to me while learning languages, because I think it's very valuable just to hear other people's experiences. I don't want this series to be only myself talking about my experiences, but I have regularly opened it up to other language learners who want to share their stories about learning languages. Whether you're a YouTuber or a blogger or just someone who has a story, I'm very interested in hearing your stories, and if you want to share your story about language learning, please just send me a message, let me know, and I'll broadcast your message to the world. Today's Storytime Saturday doesn't have too much of a moral or a lesson. It's just kind of funny, but maybe you can take something out of it, because I want to share some of my experiences with really embarrassing language moments, speaking other languages when I've said something very, very, very wrong. And I have, a few different stories of terrible catastrophes that have happened to me in various languages, as well as a few of my friends. So with that said, I don't want to be the only one airing my dirty laundry on YouTube. If you have a funny story, something similar to some of my experiences, please let me know in the comments below. I'm sure everyone who has ever learned a language has accidentally said something terrible in that language at some time. So share your funny stories below and we'll have a good laugh. And of course, again, if you want to make a video of one of your stories, just comment, let me know, and we'll work out how you can send me a video of your story. So I guess I'll start off with Spanish, which is my first second language, and I have the most embarrassing stories in Spanish of ridiculous things that I've accidentally said. A lot of them also come from friends of mine who I know who have made some language blunders. The first one is the classic Spanish mistake that every girl who has ever learned Spanish has feared making. I feel like most Spanish speakers have made this mistake at some point, but for guys it's just kind of funny, and for girls it's terrifying. And of course, my friend Trisha was staying with a host family. I don't remember in what country. Something embarrassing happened to her. I'm sure it was a very trivial thing in retrospect, but she's speaking with her host family and she says, "Estoy embarazada." Of course, intending to mean I'm embarrassed, and in all actuality telling her host family that she was pregnant. It's one of those false friends that you have to be very careful about not saying when you're learning Spanish. Embarazada, sounding like embarrassed but meaning pregnant. The next Spanish blunder that I personally made when I lived in El Salvador is my friend Pilar and I were I was working on a goat farm at the time, and I think we had just finished the shift and we were sitting outside. It was all windy, we had been working all day, and she says, "Estoy despeinada." My hair is all messed up, or like I'm all messy, my hair is messed up. The wind has messed up my hair. And I always carried this man purse with me, and I had a comb in there. So, being the good friend that I am, I wanted to say, "Here, you can borrow my comb." Instead of saying, "Te presto mi peine," I said, te presto mi pene. There's a very subtle difference, especially for an English speaker, there's a very subtle difference between pene and pene. But I ended up saying, rather than you can borrow my comb, I said, you can borrow my penis. Of course, she understood what I meant to say, but she had a good laugh, and it was very embarrassing. Along the same line, I don't know why all of my Spanish translation stories are just terrible. They're just awful. There's so many bad things that you can accidentally say in Spanish. I had another friend who didn't speak Spanish very well. He was a little older, and it's just a little more difficult for older folks to pick up a new language. He had to bring his car into the shop, and I guess the backstory is that he would hear this noise in his car that would only happen when he was driving it. Then he would bring it in, and the noise would go away. Of course, as it always happens when you need to show some noise that your car is making to the auto mechanic. So this time he brought in his friend Jorge, who had also heard the noise, and my friend wanted to say, here's my friend Jorge, he's my witness that this noise is happening. Spanish word for witness is testigo, but he said testiculo. So he said, this is my friend Jorge, he is my testicle. Of course, again, another good laugh. They probably understood what he meant. Or they at least understood that he did not mean to say that. The worst one by far, at least in my Spanish list here, is I had a friend who, so this is a third-hand story. So my friend had a different friend who was a missionary in El Salvador, and she was teaching a Sunday school class, which she probably shouldn't have been doing in Spanish if her level of Spanish was at this level. She was trying to tell a story of Jonás y la ballena, Jonah and the whale. Instead, she told this story to young Salvadoran children about Jonás y la vagina, Jonah and the vagina. And apparently, according to this version of the Bible, Jonah spent 3 days living in the belly of the vagina. And there were some very confused Sunday school students this week. So that's my list of Spanish blunders. I actually had a lot more that, it's been a few years since I moved away from El Salvador, and I can't remember all of them, but they're all terrible. So I'll try to remember some more, and maybe I'll leave them in the comments below. Even in English, my own native language, this has happened to me a few times. Specifically because not every dialect of English is the same, and sometimes really bad things can happen. Like when I went to the United Kingdom, and it was summertime, so I brought mostly shorts, but I also brought one pair of pants, as we would say in the US. I brought a pair of blue jeans, or trousers, as they would say in the UK. What I didn't know is that in the UK, pants refers to underpants. So I was staying with a host family, and I told them, yeah, I brought a lot of shorts and one pair of pants. So they must have thought I was a really dirty American. Actually, they didn't think that. They understood that I speak a different dialect than them, and they understood what it meant. But they did have a good laugh. I also, do I have it here? I bring this little, I carry this little, I don't know what you would call it. I call it a fanny pack. I tuck it under my pants or under my shirt, and it goes around my waist just to keep my passport safe when I'm traveling. And yeah, in the UK, you don't say fanny pack. You say, I believe, bum bag, which sounds really funny to me, but I say fanny pack. And it's funny because the word fanny in the US is like a really old, outdated term for your butt or bum. But no one would really ever say that anymore. But I guess you could kind of would understand just because if you read old books or watch old movies or something, you might understand that fanny means butt. But really, if I say a fanny pack, I'm not thinking that. I'm just thinking a fanny pack is like a backpack you wear around your waist. But in the United Kingdom, fanny means vagina. That was a very Spanish way of saying that word. In the United Kingdom, fanny means vagina, and I said that word out in public, and the guy I was with turns at me, he's like, don't say that, call it a bum bag. Even though that thing that I carry around my waist is not even really a fanny pack. I just don't know what else to call it. So even in my own native language, sometimes language blunders happen. In Esperanto, this just happened a few weeks ago when I was at NASC. We're all learners, so we're pretty understanding of each other's mistakes. And I was talking with some Canadians, and I wanted to tell them how much I appreciate my Canadian brothers and sisters and their culture, and I just wanted to gloat about poutine and how much I love poutine. If you don't know what poutine is, it's this really delicious Canadian food, specifically Quebecois food, and it's so good. It's French fries with gravy and cheese curds. And I don't know how to say poutine in Esperanto. That's not a word they teach you on Duolingo. But, this is a relatively new addition to the language. I don't think poutine is that old of a food. And typically, with newer words, they just kind of are the same in all languages, right? So I'm thinking surely poutine in Esperanto would just be poutino. It's not. That's wrong. If you speak Spanish or maybe French, you might be able to figure out what puto is in Esperanto. Then you add the in suffix, making it female. So putino would be a whore or a slut. So when I was telling my friends that I like to eat putino, what I was really telling them is I like to eat a slut. Of course, again, the theme of this whole video is we had a good laugh, but they understood what I was talking about. And no one actually thought I was talking about my strange sexual fetishes. In Thai, this happened maybe a month ago. I don't have very many stories in Thai, but this is one. Probably within the first week of learning Thai, I started using Hello Talk to message native speakers of Thai. And I'm learning a whole new alphabet, and the Thai alphabet is devilishly difficult to learn. It's like unnecessarily complicated. There's all these letters that look very similar but have very different sounds, or very different looking letters that have the same sound. And I wanted to say, I had just been messaging a few different people very early on, and I was messaging this back and forth with this girl, and it was like, hello, how are you? I'm good, thanks. But instead of saying I'm good, thanks, sabay di, I wanted to say khop kun krap. But we were messaging through text, and the Thai word khop kun krap is thank you, but instead of khop, maybe I'll put a little letter down here if I remember it. This Thai letter for K looks very similar to the Thai letter for the CH sound, or like it's an affricate. Ch, ch. And so instead of saying Khop kun krap, I said Chop kun krap, which means I like you. So the difference between thank you and I like you is very small, at least in the written alphabet. And so, you know, it was like the first thing I said to this girl, thanks, I like you. She understood what I meant, and she messaged me back. She was like, no, don't say that. Say, you know, write it with this letter instead of that letter. And no harm, no foul. But it was still very embarrassing. And then I was trying to think of something embarrassing that I've said in French before, and I couldn't think of any, other than the fact that there's a French-Canadian song called La Fuck en Alaska. La fuck is the French word for the seal, like the, you know, aquatic mammal, or I don't know, what would you call it? It's a land mammal that swims. That kind of seal, not a seal like in an envelope. And then en Alaska, meaning in Alaska. But there's also a small town in Wisconsin, where I'm from, called on Alaska. So, you know, I've never run into any bad situations with this phrase so far, but I'm sure one of these times I'm going to be singing La Fuck on Alaska, and the wrong person's going to hear it and think I'm saying something very different, which would be rather funny as well. So that's all I have in this video. There's really not a whole lot of a lesson from these funny stories. It was just mostly meant to be entertaining. I guess unless you could take the message out of it that just don't worry about messing up, making really terrible mistakes. If you do say something really bad or really awful, just laugh about it, and hopefully this will encourage you to be a little bit more bold and go out and be a little bit more fearless when you're speaking languages, because we all make mistakes, and sometimes they're really funny. Again, if you've ever had a story or an experience that has anything to do with learning a language, or anything with language or linguistics at all, let me know. And if you want to make a video or even just an audio recording, I'll publish you here on my channel. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.